Where's Tom? Well, good afternoon. I guess that's a light, all right. I'm Mike Opat, Chair of the Hennepin County Board and member of the Hennepin Healthcare System Board of Directors, and I'm pleased to welcome all of you here to the annual meeting of the Hennepin Healthcare System. On behalf of the County Board, I especially want to thank the citizens who have volunteered to serve on the Health System Board during this past year. I also want to thank the talented staff of HHS in whatever their capacity. Overall, Hennepin County is a very large organization, and though not always very visible, we do many things that touch thousands of lives directly or indirectly every day. For instance, and obviously, we build and run libraries. There are 41 of them in our system today, including this one, that are visited close to 6 million times a year. We are responsible for more than 2,000 lane miles of roads, 146 bridges, and we plan and help manage transit within the county. We manage a recycling program that recycles 570,000 tons of garbage each year and processes another 365,000 tons to generate energy. We maintain public safety through our corrections department, our sheriff's office, and operate 4 correctional institutions and supervise nearly 30,000 offenders. We assure that all people's basic needs are met through a comprehensive delivery of human services and public health programs, which make up 45% of our annual budget. And since Hennepin County took over General Hospital from the city of Minneapolis in 1964, we own the largest public teaching hospital in the state in Hennepin County Medical Center and are the state's largest provider of care to indigent and vulnerable populations. In the full history of HCMC, since it opened, I doubt there has ever been a quiet time or one of little change and no challenges. Certainly today we face strong headwinds serving a significant proportion of patients whose care is paid for by public programs that reimburse us less than it costs to deliver the care. You'll hear more about our challenges and our successes from other speakers today, so I'll close by noting that no one in America has healthcare figured out. Every aspect of healthcare, from what kind of provider you as a patient will see, to where and how you will have that encounter, to how much it will cost, to the division of responsibility for payment, is under debate and consideration. We at HHS and at the county are actively working to figure it out our way, and will continue to do so. I'm pleased now to introduce the chair of the Hennepin Healthcare System Board and former mayor of Minneapolis, Sharon Selsbelt.
Thank you, Michael, for your commitment to HCMC, and I can't tell you how much of a pleasure it is for me to work with you. Mike and I have been friends for a number of years, and I can't think of a better place for us to partner than in service to HHS. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the members of the Hennepin County Board of Commissioners for their enduring commitment to Hennepin County Medical System. We couldn't do it without you. I wanted to take a moment, if I could, to recognize members of the HS Board who are here today. We just had a board meeting before our annual meeting. They are present, and I'm going to ask each and every one of you to please stand up. Don't be shy. And I'd like to invite the public to give them a round of applause for their service. With us also this afternoon, we have members of our Hennepin Health Foundation Board and our Minneapolis Medical Research Foundation Board. And I would like to ask members of those two bodies if they would also please stand. Come on, don't be shy. You know, this is a public meeting, and this is our opportunity to thank our public servant leaders. And amongst them are members of our medical center physicians and the staff who have also joined us today. The board wants to take this opportunity to recognize your dedication and your commitment to the patients first and foremost, and to thank you for all that you do to serve the community. We clearly understand the challenges that public teaching hospitals like HCMC face, and we understand there are many. But in spite of all of these challenges, We are inspired by the human potential, the human resource that you represent, the intelligence, the passion that propels you to do what you do each and every day for each and every citizen that comes through our door. A round of applause to you. This has been a year of change for HCMC. In just a few minutes, you're going to have the opportunity to hear from our new Chief Executive Officer, Dr. John Pryor. As you get to know John, I know you'll be impressed as I am with his vision, his intelligence, and his genuine enthusiasm for this place. And I know that it stems from his early years as a resident in the Department of Surgery. I don't want to tell you how many years ago, but a little birdie told me it was 30. Sorry, John. Welcome. I believe his enthusiasm for Hennepin County Medical Center is as strong today as it was 30 years ago. And I share enthusiasm, and he shares our enthusiasm for this outstanding institution. Now, let me just ask you to think about HCMC for a minute. The main campus is in a neighborhood that is fast becoming the epicenter for the development in the Twin Cities area. When we were here about a year ago, I don't know if you remember this, but we were in this big discussion about a stadium. We didn't know whether or not there was going to be a stadium, but guess what? There is. And it's right in our backyard. People refer to this stadium as the People's Stadium. And the People's Stadium is actually right across the street from the People's Medical Center. And I don't know about you, but that gives me chill bumps. Because the opportunity for us to really create a strong and vibrant center here on the east side of the Central Business District with HCMC at the heart of it, not the stadium, but us at the heart of it, it's just very exciting. HCMC is owned by the people. It serves the people here in Minneapolis, and we are increasingly reaching out to Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, Ridgefield, Bloomington, St. Anthony Village, Chaska even. And this fall, we're going to be opening up a new clinic in Golden Valley. This is really a center that is serving all of Hennepin County. We're expanding our outreach to the residents of Hennepin, and I am pleased to also report to you that we are holding on to our market share. We held on to our market share in 2012, and we actually increased the number of people served in the hospital and the number of people that are seen in our clinic. Now, this is growth in a time when some other hospitals and healthcare systems aren't growing. Well, some might say they are, but I'll say today that they aren't. And it tells me that what we've done is we've taken the face of the future we're going to face the future with confidence. And now, as I take a moment to acknowledge, and I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge an individual who's played a key role in the past 6 years in helping us to progress on this journey. In our audience today is a man who helped HCMC make the transition to a new governance model beginning in 2007. As a member of our very first hospital board, he brought a wealth of health knowledge and healthcare experience to our board, and he put it to darn good use as the chair of that board. Well, as some of you might recall, late last summer, Art Gonzalez announced that he was leaving the hospital, and the board needed to find an interim CEO. David is like moving his eyebrows right now. And we were fortunate enough to convince David Jones to walk away from retirement and back into a leadership role. And from August of 2012 to April of 2013, David Jones, our former chair of the board, served HCMC as our interim CEO. When David came on to HCMC, he brought a no-nonsense, let me be real clear about our priorities style of leadership to the hospital, and almost immediately had an impact on our quality and our safety results. When David left the board to become our CEO, we were all sad. And when we saw what he was doing in his leadership role at HCMC, we were quite proud. Well, I'll tell you what, David has decided that he's going to move on and he's not going to be returning to the board, and we're so saddened by that. And I really want to take this opportunity at this moment to say a very special thank you personally to David Jones for his leadership. And on behalf of the board, I'd like to acknowledge his extraordinary service to the community and to the hospital. David, I'd like you to join me on the stage. Give him a round of applause as he comes forward. So David, we all got together as a board and decided that we needed to formulate some words to acknowledge the quality of service and the leadership that you've provided to the hospital. And if you don't mind, I'd like to embarrass you a little further by reading this resolution. Is that okay? I was going to do it anyway if you said no. The Executive Committee of the HHS Board of Directors resolves as follows. In the past 7 years, David Jones has amassed a distinguished record of service to HHS, Hennepin Health Systems, both as an uncompensated board member and as our interim CEO. Mr. Jones was first appointed to the board in 2006 and served as the inaugural chairman of the board's Finance Committee and a member of the Executive Committee of the board. In January of 2012, Mr. Jones succeeded Mark Bernardson as the second chair of the board of directors, a position which he filled for the next 2.5 years. Upon the resignation of Art Gonzalez as our CEO in July of 2012, Mr. Jones came out of his well-deserved retirement to lead the institution as the interim CEO. During his tenure as our executive officer, Mr. Jones refocused the institution on its commitment to and tradition of high-quality clinical care and refocused the board on the task of planning for the future in the midst of challenging economic times. Throughout all of his service in all of his various roles, Mr. Jones has been a dedicated, forthright, and articulate voice for Hennepin County Medical Center and its mission. He has served with humor, yes, courage, and commitment. Wherefore, based on the foregoing, be it resolved that Hennepin County Health Systems Board of Directors expresses its deepest appreciation for the years of dedicated service provided to this institution by our friend and our esteemed colleague, David Jones. It's not over, and this is a presentation that we're making to David just to acknowledge his service. We know that it's not enough for all the hours and energy that you put into this job, this position, but we give it to you with love and care, and thank you again for all that you've done.
Thank you, Sharon. I think this falls into the category of always believed you can fool all of the people all of the time. I know, I really do appreciate this. This has been wonderful. Quite frankly, people go to work for all kinds of reasons, and the most important is the psychic gratification. And I will tell you that this job has provided me with more psychic gratification than any money in the world could provide. It is a wonderful, wonderful institution. It has got a great future, and I am very, very pleased and proud to have been part of it. And quite frankly, this whole thing is a capstone to my career. So I thank you, Sharon. I thank you, the board, my colleagues, and I hope my friends, and I hope to remain in contact, even though not formally on the board and so forth. So I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
David's wife is in the audience, and I just would like to just acknowledge your presence and thank you for sending him back, to us. We appreciate it. Now I'm pleased to welcome our medical director, Dr. Michael Belzer, to share with you a little bit more about this past year. Dr. Belzer?
Good afternoon. Sharon told you my name is Michael Belzer, and I'm the Chief Medical Officer of Hennepin County Medical Center, a position that I've held since 1990. And it's a pleasure to welcome all of you again for our second annual meeting to learn about some important accomplishments of the Medical Center and hear about our vision for the future. Last year at our inaugural annual meeting, I had an opportunity to look out and to look forward to discuss our ongoing journey while talking about the art of medicine that we were teaching at the Medical Center. And today my task is not so much to look forward, but rather to look through the rearview mirror and to talk about a couple major achievements since our last annual meeting. And in light of the impending physician shortage that I believe you're aware of, to highlight several features about our MD education programs. Hennepin County Medical Center is 126 years old this year. Every day we touch 2,000 lives with an impressive legacy of serving the community, state, and region as a critical resource for all who seek our services. From the many potential topics I had to choose from to highlight, I've chosen two of them to talk about. One is the installation of our new state-of-the-art heart hyperbaric oxygen chamber and the opening of the Hennepin Interdisciplinary Simulation Education Center. The hyperbaric oxygen chamber opened in the spring of 2012 after the annual meeting, and the 48-foot, 120,000-pound chamber was manufactured in Australia, carried by ship, and then semi-across half of the continent before unloading and placement inside our 12,000-square-foot facility in the Hennepin County Medical Center Purple Building near the corner of 7th Street and Park Avenue. It replaced a 48-year-old chamber that was located an inconvenient 2 blocks from the downtown campus. The new chamber is state-of-the-art, used 24/7, 365 for emergency treatment of critically ill patients, focusing on victims of carbon monoxide poisoning, radiation injury, diabetic ulcers, chronic wound healing, and air embolism. Additionally, the chamber will be used for research that shows promise for improving the outcome of patients with traumatic brain injury. Second, opening of the Hennepin Interdisciplinary Simulation Education Center, something we're very proud of after 5 years of vigorous fundraising, public and private grants. The $3.5 million, 10,000 square foot simulation center opened in January of 2013. Using state-of-the-art simulation equipment, participants learn proper techniques, refine interpersonal skills, build confidence in their abilities as medical future providers in the medical center. And as a multidisciplinary training center, the center conducts education programs for nurses, physicians, pre-hospital providers, and other allied health professionals, as well as community groups from across the region. This facility is located in the lower level of the parking ramp and uses a full range of learning modalities to provide the most realistic and hands-on computer-operated life-size mannequins, standardized patients or actors who play the roles of patients, high-fidelity mannequins, and staffed by procedural task trainers who are designed to teach technical skills for a wide variety of procedures. As I mentioned, the facility and center was made possible in part by charitable contributions, and it's an example of how the community and community generosity can enhance our patient population health, patient experience, and in this case, medical education efforts. Our young foundation is growing, is in good hands with leadership, and your continued support makes this a very important project, and the foundation has significant impact on the medical center. Second major topic, as I think you're aware of, the popular press as well as academic health policy and health services researchers are clearly in agreement that our country is facing a future serious physician shortage. And the shortage is being addressed at a number of levels, including U.S. medical schools and hospital-based residency programs. The AAMC, or Association of American Medical Colleges, has called for and has implemented a 30% increase in medical school matriculants and graduates. And as a result, we've seen increasing class sizes in medical schools that are existing medical schools, as well as over a dozen new U.S. medical schools that we've seen open their doors in the past 7 years. What is Hennepin County Medical Center doing locally to fashion a solution to the worrisome national and, as it turns out, state dilemma? That will occur, the shortage will occur because of an aging population, aging physician workforce, and expanded insurance and provision under the healthcare provision under the Affordable Care Act. So let me briefly outline our important role in training doctors for Hennepin County, the 7-county metropolitan area, as well as for our state. Hennepin County Medical Center has a very long and rich tradition of contributions to graduate and undergraduate medical education. The original city hospital you see here was founded in 1887 and was largely dependent on student interns for much of the patient care during the initial years. The original staff consisted of 4 nurses, 2 interns, a matron, and a general handyman. The original buildings of the University of Minnesota Medical School were actually located across the street from the Minneapolis City Hospital. The official relationship with the University of Minnesota was cemented in 1909 when the superintendent of the Minneapolis City Hospital preferentially assigned university faculty as attending physicians during the winter months. And medical education, of course, is a mission pillar for the medical center. Well, let's fast forward 100 years to the present time, 2013, and let's do a snapshot at the medical center today. We would have 315 MD residents training in dozens of various specialties and subspecialties, and over 100 medical students from the University of Minnesota on our campus today. Put in another way, if we looked at it over a year period, we'd have 900 different individual residents and 400 individual different medical students train on our campus in any given year. Hennepin County Medical Center has nationally known residency training programs in general dentistry and podiatry in addition to our MD programs. And if we wanted to look at the MD programs that are housed in the medical center that we sponsor, we have programs in emergency medicine, family and community medicine, internal medicine, general surgery, a transitional year residency, and true to mission, we sponsor a nationally recognized 24-resident psychiatry program with Regions Hospital in St. Paul. We also train subspecialists in fellowships, subspecialty fellowships at Hennepin in critical care medicine, geriatric medicine, hyperbaric medicine, sleep medicine, and cardiology. Our training programs are nationally recognized and known as evidenced by 100% of our positions in the last National Resident Intern Match filled to 100%, which is a known marker of quality and excellence. In addition to the over 200 residents that we train in programs sponsored at Hennepin, we're a training site for many specialties and subspecialties for residents from the University of Minnesota. The graduate medical education program at any given time has 100 university residents and fellows training on the campus in a myriad of specialties ranging from anesthesia to radiology. So why is this important, other than it's a pillar of the work that we do and we have a long tradition for training? Well, along with the national shortage, Minnesota is also facing a serious doctor shortage. Within 10 years, Minnesota will be 2,000 doctors short for projected needs. Today, there are 12,000 licensed practicing physicians in Minnesota, many more licensed, but 12,000 practicing, and almost half of them are 56 years of age and older. An average of 500 active physicians each year will reach the age of 65. And in the next 10 years, training programs in Minnesota expect to replace only about half of these physicians by putting approximately 250 physicians each year in practice from our 1,200 resident programs, putting together all of the trainees from the teaching hospitals. So one thing we know is that the best way to keep doctors in Minnesota is to train doctors in Minnesota. And we do that at the medical center. Approximately 65% of all of our residents trained at Hennepin County Medical Center stay in Minnesota to practice. An estimated 1,200 physicians currently living in Hennepin County trained at Hennepin County Medical Center, and more than 1,000 physicians currently practicing in the 60-some other counties were trained either in part or in whole at Hennepin County Medical Center. So our commitment to this ambitious, nationally recognized medical education training program and programs have served the community well and will continue to serve the community well. We appreciate that the HHS Board and Hennepin County Board of Commissioners provide ongoing support for this important mission and pillar of our existence. So as you've been hearing today, the past year was a mix of successes and serious challenges. I believe that the spirit and commitment that propels us to have specialties recognized as top performers by U.S. News and World Reports this year, by the way, our 16th consecutive year of being U.S. News and World Report's top hospital, requires all 5,000 of our employees to be pulling in the same direction for the same goals and knowing their individual role to promote patient and family-centered care and exceptional care without exception. So let me next introduce Kathy Wild, our Chief Nursing Officer, to talk about our quality journey this past year. Kathy?
Thank you, Dr. Belzer. Well, on behalf of all the caregivers and those that support the caregivers at HCMC, we want to thank you for coming tonight, this afternoon, and for your interest in hearing about Hennepin County Medical Center. I'm here to share a couple of stories about how our staff and patients are helping to improve the care and service that we deliver each and every day. Like all hospitals, we're on a quality journey. Last fall, when David Jones came as our interim CEO, he challenged us to look more closely at the data we were looking at with our quality and safety results and said, let's look at what we need to do. We compared ourselves with others on the same journey, and what we saw, in spite of the best efforts, was not the kind of results that we wanted at HCMC. And we realized that we had a lot of room to improve both the quality of care, but also the access to the care and service at HCMC. With quality, we focused on things like hospital-acquired infections. These are things like central line infections or Foley catheter infections or surgical site infections. And we also focused on pressure ulcers and patient falls. We looked at whether we were providing good access to our care and service by measuring the total time a patient was spending in our ED, waiting to be seen or waiting to be admitted. We looked at whether they were moved to the right level of care. We looked at how long the wait time was for patients to get a clinic appointment. And we were very careful at looking at how quickly and are we preparing our patients for discharge to make sure that they aren't readmitted. Underlying all this work is our commitment to providing patient and family-centered care, which we measure through our likelihood to recommend score. We measure that in our clinics, in our ED, as well as our inpatient areas. So how are we doing? The data shows that we have made improvement in many of our measures, but it's slow and it's not systemic. It's not embedded improvement across our organization. We have pockets of excellence. To give you one example, the surgical ICU, where we see a lot of central lines placed, put names and numbers to their central line infections and said, we draw the line here, no more. We are going to take action and make improvements. And as a result, they have seen significant improvement and a reduction in the number of central line and urinary catheter infection rates. So pockets of excellence are okay, but we'll only be successful when we take these actions and deploy them across with a systemic approach and make sure we put those required improvements in place and evaluate what we've done, learn from those, and make sure we embed those processes in our actions for every patient. We need to support the patient's entire journey across the system. As they make their transitions of care, it's not an easy place to transition, as they maybe go from the ED or clinic into our inpatient setting, throughout our hospital, and back into our clinic or outpatient services. Patient-centered care contributes to the healing, and one of those key essential elements is providing that seamless journey across our healthcare system. Not only is that important that we work together, teamwork as colleagues and in our healthcare setting, but we also need to have that same partnership with our patients and families in order to provide safe and quality patient care. That's essential to our beliefs at HCMC. For the past several years, we've been inviting patients to the table to be a part of the Excellence Councils and our patient advisory councils. We have focused on providing patient and family-centered care, and at Hennepin, we call it Centered Around You. More than 3,000 employees and 500 patients have attended a patient experience rally in the last 3 years. We ask staff to step away from an exam table, the OR, an EMS rig, the lab, wherever they are, and attend a rally so that they can learn from each other, so that we can learn from our patients and families in attendance, as we refine the practice of providing truly patient and family-centered care. And patients don't just come to the rallies, they truly have become voices that are valuable on our improvement teams at Hennepin. So when the Department of Radiology was remodeling the patient waiting area, patients were involved in creating that area and making it comfortable for patients. And when Dr. Chip Truitt, our chief of radiology, was hiring a new radiologist, patients met the 2 finalists, and their voice was heard in the final selection. And in January, when our CEO candidates were here at Hennepin, the candidates not only met with leadership, with employees from many areas across the healthcare organization, but they also met with patients. And then we asked patients to share their impressions and give their recommendations on who the CEO should be. One of the patients who was involved in that process is Cheryl Maloney. Cheryl first got to know us when she supported her mother through her journey through Hennepin County Medical Center. Little did she know that when she did that, she would later return as a patient herself. And now we look to Cheryl, as we do so many other patients at Hennepin, as an important voice at the table as we make decisions about the care and service. I would like to invite Cheryl up to the podium to share her story and introduce our final speaker. Cheryl.
Mini spotlight there. Thank you, Kathy. I'm honored to be here this evening to celebrate the many accomplishments HCMC has achieved this past year. As Cassie mentioned, I am one of the representatives that she referred to from time to time who is invited into a discussion with HCMC professionals to explore ideas on how to improve services and patients' experiences. My initial experience with HCMC is grounded in a call that no child wants to receive from a parent late one night. I was busy working at my computer when my mother called at about 9:30 p.m. In a calm manner, she asked me if I could take time to drive her down to HCMC. When I asked why, she explained she had been coughing up large volumes of blood for several hours. Of course, I dropped what I was doing and rushed to my parents' home 1.5 miles from my house. When I arrived, she was standing with a bath towel nearly soaked in blood. My fight or flight response kicked in, so I escorted my mom to my car to rush her to the hospital. When I asked her why HCMC and not Fairview Southdale, she said she had researched the best hospital to go to for a medical emergency, and that was HCMC. We were lucky to be placed in an emergency room right away. After x-rays, they determined that my mom had terminal lung cancer with a large tumor that needed investigation. She was admitted to the hospital. The next day, we met her new oncologist who said our mother's tumor was not operable because of its size and entanglement with her arteries and blood vessels. In fact, the doctor said she could go at any time. When I asked for clarification, the doctor explained that if her tumor has a growth spurt, like it did to cause the bleeding, it will rupture the main artery to her heart and she will die instantly. Shocking information to fully comprehend during a crisis. The doctor gave our mom 2 weeks to live. However, we prepared to put up a good fight. We started a regimen of radiation treatment, and because everyone at HCMC was so compassionate and the environment so welcoming, soon my family members and I started to negotiate who would get to take our mother to her treatment session. It was a time of important and perhaps more conscious than ever time of bonding with our beloved mother. With our faith-filled efforts, we enjoyed 8 months of living life to the fullest with our mom, who then passed away that September. If we jump ahead to January 2012, my experience with HCMC becomes very personal. One evening, suddenly, out of the blue, I had a violent headache erupt from the top right side of my head. It came on so fast and hurt so bad that I literally thought someone had hit me with a baseball bat. I took 2 baby aspirins and sat down on my bed. I thought perhaps I was getting a migraine headache like I have heard others talk about, and perhaps I just needed to sleep it off. When I woke up the next day, I had some vision problems. I could not interpret certain letter combinations like L and I, or understand the difference between M and W. I had a hard time reading and writing emails. That night, a friend happened to call me and identified that I did not sound like myself, and that she thought I needed to go to a doctor as soon as possible. First thing in the morning, I called my medical provider nurse's hotline. I was told to hang up and call for an ambulance and get to the nearest hospital as soon as possible. I called 911, but I hung up out of fear. They called right back. The responder talked calmly to me until the ambulance arrived. The EMTs assured me they would take me anywhere, just name the hospital of choice. I told him I wanted to go to HCMC, but I was afraid I would not make it in time. He reminded me, that is why I'm in an ambulance equipped to handle medical emergencies. He then said in a slow and methodical manner, I will take you wherever you want to go. I blurted out HCMC, and off we went. I was taken directly to an emergency room and hooked up to an IV and other equipment. The emergency room doctor on duty, Dr. Mahoney, introduced himself and shared with me how amazing it was that I secured an ambulance for myself, as my condition was moving in the direction of a major medical emergency that he felt would have been catastrophic and at any moment could rupture, at any moment because I had ruptured a blood vessel that was now bleeding in my brain. My vision was impaired and my blood pressure was now off the charts, dangerously high and close to a life-changing event, most likely leading to death. Dr. Mahoney shared with me how all too often, 98% of the time, people ignore the exact same symptoms that I had by going to bed, and often they do not wake up. It is a somber realization to learn how close I really came. I spent 3 days in critical care with a myriad of doctors and nurses. I had CT scans, x-rays, blood tests, and follow-up. Thankfully, I did not have cancer, a tumor, or any physical reason why I would suddenly have a brain bleed. Finally, one of the doctors asked me about the level of stress in my life. At that time, my stress was off the charts. With a recent high-stress executive position, 3 family deaths back to back, and the responsibility of managing a complex family estate. Upon hearing this, the medical team advised me to find work with less stress and to work on managing the stress that appears in my life from time to time. I learned important information that I can and do share with others. I am grateful that Dr. Mahoney took the time to educate me on how I had 3 major red flags that were my clues that I needed immediate medical attention. First, a sudden onset of a splitting headache, worse than any I have ever had. Second, the location of my headache was in a part of the brain that only gets headaches when a major medical emergency is developing in the brain. And lastly, as an adult, we need to know that one is born with migraines. They rarely occur later on in life. If we think we are having a migraine, we need to get emergency medical help. All 3 of these symptoms are major red flags for all of us to know that we need to get to a doctor as soon as possible. I am lucky that I finally called an ambulance. I believe that it was divine providence that walked with me for the couple of days until I did make that call. My experience with HCMC has been profoundly positive and personally rewarding, as I believe my family and I have received the best medical care available in the region. To all of you here this evening that have some kind of role with HCMC, I thank you for your contribution to what makes this hospital whole and gives our community hope for the future. My heartfelt thank you to all. Thank you. Right now, it is my privilege to introduce our special guest tonight, Dr. Pryor, who I had the opportunity to be part of his interview process in January. I was struck by his story of humble beginnings, his medical specialty, and his integration of business and medicine. I am deeply impressed with him as being the right CEO for HCMC and our community at this time and place in history. Most recently, Dr. Pryor was CEO of the Medical College of Wisconsin Medical College Physicians, a clinical practice group of physicians and advanced practice providers. He served as chair of the Department of Urologic Surgery at the University of Minnesota from 2001 to 2006. He has an MBA from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University, was awarded a Bush Medical Fellowship in 2005, and has worked for McKinsey & Company, a leading national business and strategic consulting firm. Dr. Pryor, as you playfully stated to me at the patient rally 2 weeks ago, I do hope we will be friends for life. I trust that you are going to do a great job at HCMC. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me give a warm welcome to the podium, Dr. John Pryor, the new CEO of Hennepin County Medical Center.
Boy, thank you, Cheryl, for the kind words, and I want to thank everybody from the Hennepin County Board of Commissioners to the Hennepin Health System Board, to my colleagues and staff at Hennepin County Medical Center, to all of you for the kind words and for the warm welcome. I've been CEO for a whole 3 weeks now, and it's really great to reconnect with Hennepin County Medical Center. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my journey so you can see why I'm back here and why this job means so much to me. And then I'm going to finish with a few thoughts about my vision of healthcare in the future and Hennepin's role in that changing landscape. But first, let's start with my beginnings. So I grew up in St. Paul in the Groveland, Cleveland area, and was there until the end of junior high when I moved to Roseville to go to high school. And I want to say at the onset that I never really wanted to be a doctor. I didn't know anything about medicine. I had no physicians in the family or nurses. I always wanted to be a into physics. I wanted to be a physicist. But After I graduated from high school, I needed money for college. I'm not talking about for books or tuition. I'm talking about for more important things, pizza and beer. And back then, the drinking age was 18, by the way, so that was okay. And I looked around for where I could make some money, and I saw an advertisement for nursing assistant at St. Paul Ramsey Medical Center. And it actually paid pretty well. So I took the exam, passed, took a week of training, and began on 9 South at St. Paul Ramsey Medical Center. It was a urology and OBGYN ward. And I did the typical things you do as a nursing assistant. I did I's and O's and took vitals. I would assist nurses and physicians. I would change beds, sometimes with the patient in the bed. I would give baths, both in the tub and bed baths. And yes, I did my share of emptying bedpans, way too many. I also made connections with patients. I felt privileged to be able to touch a patient, not just physically, but with empathy. I would listen to their stories or complaints, and I felt like sometimes that really made a difference. It also felt good to me. The patients would get better physically, but actually I was the one that benefited in many cases. So after that summer, I felt, physics was great, but really I could do medicine potentially for my life's work. And I went to Carleton College and was a pre-med. And after I graduated from Carleton, I got married 2 weeks later and went to medical school at the University of Minnesota that fall. And I really enjoyed medical school, had a couple kids while I was there. I enjoyed each and every one of my rotations, many of them at Hennepin County Medical Center. And in fact, those were my best rotations. And every time I did a rotation, I felt like this is something I wanted to specialize in. And at the end, when it was all done and said and done, I wanted to be a urologist. I mean, somebody has to do it. So I matched at the University of Virginia, which was one of the top urology programs at the time, and it was a 6-year residency. The first 2 years of your 6 years, you had to spend doing general surgery. And I thought, well, where in the world would I want to do this? And really, when I thought about it, it was no choice. Hennepin County Medical Center was my first, second, and third choice. I did apply to 2 programs in the match because I didn't want to have that much hubris just in case I didn't get in at Hennepin, but I did manage to get in. And it was a wonderful experience. There were phenomenal teachers there. I mean, many of them you've heard of in the past. Ernie Reese in emergency room medicine, Morris Davidman in nephrology, Claude Hitchcock in surgery. These were all the greats. But it wasn't just these people. I mean, it was my fellow residents. Some of them, people my year, we teach each other, or the people who are older than us. It was the nurses on the wards. It was some people who are still here, the Steve Sterners and Joe Clintons, Scott Davies, Art Nyes, Mark Odlin. Sorry to date you guys, but and I don't do it to embarrass you, but really to actually illustrate your dedication, perseverance, that you're still here, and the excellence and the impact that you had on people like me and thousands of others like me. So it was an intense experience. Back then they didn't have the 80-hour work week. You'd be on call every second or third night, and when you weren't on call and you were at home, you'd be thinking about what were you missing back there at the hospital. It was, like I said, it was so intense, and they didn't care that much about the hours back then. So I basically lived at the hospital for 2 years, and that meant my family would come and meet me oftentimes in the cafeteria. We would have dinner there where we could. So this Hennepin County Medical Center experience just wasn't my experience. It was my family's experience as well. And I was pit boss, which means they were the chief resident in the emergency room. And after I was pit boss, I felt like maybe I should be an emergency room doctor, not a urologist. I love living in the ICU. I love the intensive care unit. And afterwards, I felt oftentimes maybe I should be an intensivist. I didn't get in the OR enough. You never can as a surgeon. But when I was there, I thought maybe I should switch into general surgery. But at the end, I felt like, okay, I'm going to go on with urology. And I left to go to University of Virginia. But I left feeling really well prepared to take care of the patient. When I started at University of Virginia, your first year you can do research, and as part of your research year, you have a little bit better hours, and so it was an opportunity to moonlight, and I just want to say that I would moonlight sometimes in the weekends and the evenings in Luray, Virginia, and in Lexington, Virginia. And for the most part, you take care of earaches and cuts and scratches and things like that, but you never knew when at 2 in the morning you'd have a cardiac arrest or gunshot wound, or a car would hit an embankment and 4 people critically injured. And it's not like you had a lot of staff around you at the time. I mean, this is in the middle of nowhere for all practical purposes. And people would be freaking out, and I'd feel really calm and cool and like, hey, just like the Hennepin days, no problem. And so Hennepin, you prepared me well. So I finished urology. I did a bunch of other stuff that you heard about. I was at 8 months ago at my job as CEO at Medical College of Wisconsin of a large group practice there. And one day I got this email from my kids. To be specific, it was my son-in-law. And he sent to me the Minneapolis Tribune article that Art Gonzalez had resigned. And the subject line of the email, he said, "This is your dream job, go for it." So you know Hennepin made an experience on your family when it's not just your family, but your son-in-law knows the stories of Hennepin. So I went for it. I'm here today. I feel privileged to take care of people. I feel privileged to be here. And I know that the physicians, nurses, and staff at Hennepin County Medical Center feel just as privileged to take care of patients and to serve the citizens of Hennepin County and beyond. Taking care of patients is a team event. We all make a difference. And I'm not just talking about the physicians or the nurses. It's the people in the dock. You know, it's the people down the cafeteria that keep us going with calories. It's about the environmental services. We all have a role in this. So I want to transition to a few thoughts about my vision of healthcare going forward. Again, it's just a vision, so who knows? I can say whatever I want. But there are 4 points that I want to make. The first is that there's going to be a provider shortage. As it was alluded to by Dr. Belzer, there's the AAMC suggests that by 2020 we're likely to be 90,000 physicians short. 90,000 physicians. In addition, physicians overall want to have a life. They want balance in their life. Go figure. I don't know much about that, but I've been told it's a good thing. So that means, balance means apparently working less hours. So less providers out there, at least less physician providers. On top of it, with the Affordable Care Act, 35 million more people are going to be receiving care over the next few years. This is basically a supply-demand issue. Less physicians, more patients. This is a problem. Number 2 is that quality in healthcare in the United States is poor. There are a lot of quality measures I could pick, but one that's not very arguable is pretty much black and white is death. I learned this in medical school. And if you look at the OECD, and I always have to look at my notes and what that is, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development Countries, we are 25th in overall life expectancy, 25th in life expectancy. Okay, so hold that thought while I go on to the third thing, which is medical care costs too much. So it's close to 18% of our GDP. Now you may say, hey, that's great. 18% is fine. That's what we should be spending on health care. But what are we getting for it? If you look at it in terms of the OECD nations, we spend 2.5 times more than the average OECD nation per citizen on health care. So we're spending 2.5 times more. And if we were number 1 in OECD, I'd say that's a great return on investment, but we're number 25. So we're spending too much. In addition, there's been a couple studies to suggest now that out of our $2.6 trillion a year spent on health care, $750 billion of it is waste. So about 30% of what we're spending is waste. This is a problem. And finally, I'd like to echo Commissioner Opat's comments that nobody has the answer. I was intrigued by an article in around middle of March in the New York Times where they talked about Kaiser Permanente. For those of you who don't know Kaiser Permanente, it's a huge system going across the Midwest into California, even into Hawaii. And the CEO of Kaiser Permanente is George Halverson, who actually originated from the Twin Cities here. And he said in that article is, we don't have the Holy Grail. Now, mind you, Kaiser Permanente is arguably the best healthcare system in the United States, okay? And they say they don't have the Holy Grail. And when the article went further, it pointed out that actually the prices overall were only about 10% less than most places. And in fact, in Ohio, the healthcare expense at Kaiser Permanente was average. It was median in Ohio. And in addition, they were getting lots of patient complaints. People had to travel far to get to Kaiser, and they weren't happy with Kaiser. So here you have what is arguably the best system in the United States, and yet they're not that good. So overall, I'm not painting you a very rosy picture of healthcare in the future. So what is Hennepin's role in all of this? Well, let's go back to that shortage of providers that I said, with less physicians, 35 million more people. I want to tell you, I think Dr. Belzer actually did a great job up there saying that we are doing more than our fair share of training providers. There is a healthcare provider that received training at Hennepin County Medical Center in every single county in Minnesota. Training healthcare providers is part and parcel of what we do. It is our core, our heart and soul. It is in our mission, and we are going to continue to train the next generation of healthcare providers. Number two, I said before that the quality of healthcare in the United States is poor. It's poor at Hennepin County Medical Center, just as it is in many systems in the United States. We're not as good as we should be in quality, but we are very committed to changing that. We are very committed to standardizing best practices. We basically want to deliver the best care for every patient, every day, every single time. It's just like when you fly an airplane. You get on the plane, you don't even think about, most of you don't think, about, are you going to land safely? You just expect it. It should be no different than when you come into Hennepin County Medical Center. You should expect to get great care and to land safely. I said health care is expensive. I want to tell you right now, we're going lean. And I want you to understand what this means. It means that we're going to strive for efficiency. We're going to try to cut money this year, next year, every year. Not cut money where there's a return on investment, not cut money where it's going to hurt our quality, but basically get rid of waste. Lean really shouldn't be a four-letter word. I want us to get over that. It should actually, in most places where they really do lean, it's fun. People have fun because it's not people like me figuring out where to cut waste. It's people like all of you figuring out where in the system is waste, because you're the ones with the answers. And finally, I want to go back to where healthcare delivery is poor. We're going to work to deliver new delivery models. As was pointed out, no one has an answer, but we're poised to help contribute to what that answer is. We're the right size system to really basically be nimble and to be thinking about new healthcare delivery models. We're an integrated system. There's only one other integrated system in the Twin Cities, and that's Health Partners and Park Nicollet Medical Center. And they just became integrated, and they've got a long way to go to where they're a real integrated system. So here you are, probably in the mecca of healthcare delivery, where there's lots of great intellectual capital. We're integrated and thinking in terms of how to use this system and stuff. We've got really great intellectual capital, not just with our physicians, but with all of our providers and staff at Hennepin County Medical Center. We are poised to change healthcare delivery and to be part of the answer going forward. In addition, we continue to grow our primary care system to meet our patients where they are. And this includes putting up new clinics like the one in Golden Valley this fall and continuing to look for opportunities to improve access to our system. So we have a journey to take. Hennepin Health System and Hennepin County Medical Center is made stronger with your engagement and with the generosity of our corporate and community partners and patients. As I begin my journey with Hennepin Health Systems, I look forward to working together with all of you to benefit the patients we serve, the physicians we train, and the solutions we provide for a healthy community. I will end where I started. I'm very happy to be here. I look forward to serving the county and to the citizens and to our patients. I want to thank you very much for being here today and taking the time to celebrate and to help us be part of the solution in the future. And I look forward to discussing this further at a reception. So thank you very much.
This concludes our annual meeting, and we're all invited to retire to the foyer for a reception for Dr. Pryor, our board members, and the members of the public who've joined us today. Thank you so very much.